Today we're going to talk about the homosexual seed. Now this may shock everybody, just don't turn off. It's what causes a homosexual child to think the way they think. First of all, I'd like to do a little background and give you a little check on this. I've been thinking about this and working on this and going over this in my mind for probably 15 years. I've presented it, some of it, to a lot of people, and they all say I'm nuts. So if you want to join a lot of people, just hold on till I'm finished and then draw your own conclusions. The people who say I'm nuts are the doctors and the scholars and the smart people, and but every lay person that I talk to could see the logic of what I'm going to say. So I hope you just sit back and listen. Now, when Abadanijad, or whatever that little scorched name who runs Iran, came to the United States, he was asked if there were any homosexuals in Iran, and he said no. Jay Leno made jokes, David Letterman made jokes, Bill Riley laughed. I imagine Jimmy Kimmel made jokes. I imagine they all did. And I thought, what, maybe there aren't. So I asked an Iranian friend of mine, and she said, there aren't. And I said, why? And she gave me the simple reasoning why. Females in Iran are so depressed that when a lady is pregnant, she wants a boy. Gotta have a boy. She don't think girl. She thinks boy, 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 boy. Now, this is proven about women being depressed by about 2 years ago. Some gal fled her family and went to Florida because she didn't want her father to kill her because she wouldn't do what he said. That's how bad females are treated in Iran. Now, so a female gets pregnant in Iran, and she thinks boy, 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 boy. Now, if it's a girl, it could be a dyke. But dykes are not necessarily looked bad upon in Iran. If you remember a couple of years ago when there was an uprising over there, and the Home Guard in them shiny uniforms hit the streets, if you could have seen some of the builds and some of the bodies on some of them, those were women that were out there swinging those clubs. And they said that the Home Guard was made up of mostly women. So that girl that came out is thinking, boy, masculinity, swat, swat, swat. But they're not looked down upon in Iran. So now how does that relate to us? Okay, we have World War II followed by the Korean War. And all our men go off to march. They go off to war. And they all come home. The victory, yay, 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 goody, goody for our team. And they all get married. And the females say, I want a girl. I don't want to send my boy off to war. And she starts thinking, girl, 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 girl. And she treats that fetus like it's a girl. She gives it all girl thoughts. This was before they could tell whether you were going to have a boy or a girl. The doctors can tell. But this was before that. So they have these children, and they all look normal because they're all babies. But 10 to 15 years later, when they hit the streets, my God, these kids found each other. And America woke up and said, where in the hell did all these homosexuals come from? They're upon us. I wrote a book many years ago, and I said they're upon us, and one day they're going to look for their marriage. They're going to want to intermarry with each other because they think that they're perfectly correct in their sexual behavior. And we can't say they're not because their mothers taught them how to be females. So you have homosexual boys who love boys. Females love boys. If it's a female mind in a boy's body, it's gonna love a boy. You can't blame the homosexual. Don't get mad at the homosexuals. The ones you should get mad at, but you can't get mad at your mother either. Because she did it with love. It was all love, but it's the way it happened. And here they are, they're among us. It's simple logic. I have friends who, a few years back when their wives got pregnant, I said, just want a healthy baby. Don't say boy, don't say girl. Just say healthy baby, healthy baby. And a lot of healthy babies. I don't know one friend of mine who had a homosexual child who I told this to and got them to healthy babies. I just wish America would wake up. It's going to take a lot of stuff. I have been hit by ladies with purses when I talk about this, and they crack me with a purse or umbrella and say, don't you tell me I'm the cause of my son being a homosexual. I wonder if they went home and thought about it. I hope I got you thinking about it. What the fetus learns, the baby remembers. I first came across this idea of the fetus learning when I read about a Oriental lady in the state of Washington, I believe, that read to her fetus. And when her fetus was born, that kid could read almost before it was a year old. The kid could read. It was learning. If they can learn to read, why can't they learn everything else? The mother is teaching the child when it's right here. I hope you can live with that. I hope America wakes up. America's gonna. I printed a pamphlet. I printed about 100 pamphlets and I sent them around. I sent them to different reporters. I know I sent Elizabeth Hasselbeck 5 of them on The View. I met, and they all hit the trash cans. Oh, he's crazy. Because this guy with, I think it was Johns Hopkins Hospital. I'm sorry, I'm 82 years old and I'm losing some of the names along the way. Who said the child gets his sexuality after it's born. And every time I would talk to a scholar or somebody who should be known, they say, oh, go see him. He's the expert on it. There's only one thing wrong. He took 2 kids, twins, at birth. There's a book on it in the library. You can go get it. I don't know the name of the book. I don't have it around here. That one of them was circumcised and they botched the circumcision. And he decided to make a womb and make that kid a female. Before it was 3 months old, that kid was made a female. But it never stopped being a boy. So it's not the body that does it. It's the mind. They told this kid when he was about 13 or 14 years old that he was born a male, and he said, oh my God, thank goodness. I thought it was me. He played baseball better than his brother. He did everything better than his brother. He excelled in everything. He stood up when he had to pee. And when they went to see this doctor at Johns Hopkins Hospital, the doctor made out reports. And he falsified all of them because he wanted to be the big expert in the United States. Well, I guess he was. But the kids, when they got older, they ended up suing him because he falsified reports for him. And he was going to write another book. And they got on his behind so bad, I don't think the book was ever published. I don't think a publisher would touch it. He was wrong. I was right. There's only one problem between me and him. He's got the initials behind his name where he can guess wrong. I don't have initials behind my name. I have to be absolutely correct, and I am. So you look at this, and young ladies, if you get pregnant, don't say I want a boy, I want a girl, unless the doctor can tell you. Right, but until you get told by a doctor that's true, say, I want a healthy baby. And if the doctor says you're definitely going to have a boy, then start training the boy that's in your belly. The university in Southern California, Illinois, start making opera tapes, and they would fasten them to the belly of the mother. Now, those were doctors who had to think that the babies could learn something. They just didn't want to admit it, that it would be something practical. I don't know if that was ever followed up or not. We have a terrible time of putting on long distance programs without getting a positive end to it. The only positive I can tell you is if you're going to say girl, 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 and it's a boy, you're going to have a homosexual. I can almost guarantee it. Almost. Because somewhere along the line, the lady who was saying girl, 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 she may sit down one time and say, well, if it's a boy, I can accept that. I can love it. And that fetus hears that too. They're learning, they're learning, they're learning. They're learning all the time. I can see in the near future, not while I'm alive, I'm 82 years old and I'm sinking pretty good. But I can see in the future where pregnant women go to school to teach their children, and we end up getting smarter kids by teaching the kids when they're in the womb, when they're in the mama's belly. We teach them things. But we got to teach the mother. I just hope you have stuck with me, and I hope you don't stray from this. And yeah, you can sit back and say, oh, that guy's nuts. What initial does he have behind his name? None. Zero. Just practical sense. That's all. And do it my way. I had a manager. I live in an old folks home. There was a manager here whose wife was pregnant. And I'll call him Tommy. That's not his name. Tommy, don't talk to that kid. Don't say I want a boy, I want a girl. And I gave him one of my pamphlets and he read it. And he said, by God, that's good stuff. I said, well, then you're probably one of the few that read one. Because I'm sure everybody else says, oh, there's that nut. Oh, there's that nut. You know what? 50 or 100 years from now, they're going to look back and they're going to say, the SOB had it correct. And while we're talking on this subject, it's the same way with suicides. A couple of years ago, they say, oh, where all these teenage suicides come from? Well, it's a complicated world. The kids can't cope. It's not that the kids can't cope. It's that when the mothers got pregnant, they said, oh, my God, I wish I wasn't going to have this kid. Oh, I would rather do anything than be pregnant. And the kid's born, and it never forgets the fact that his mother didn't want it. But when there's a boy down there, you treat it like a girl and it's born. Every baby wants to please its mother. So it comes out acting and living the part of the other gender. Think about it. Every baby wants to please its mother. A lot of suicides? Sure. That's because mothers say, I don't want this kid. Oh, I would rather be anything but pregnant. What the fetus learns, the baby remembers. I wish you would remember that. Now, while I'm here, I'm going to talk about initials behind my name. Many years ago, when the Atlanta murders were going on, the child murders in Atlanta, I went down to Atlanta at my own expense, went to the police station and said, I can stop them if you use my plan. Oh, yeah, where did you get your law training? Well, I haven't got any. What is your profession? I'm a cook. Oh, really? There's the door, buddy. I went to a newspaper reporter and talked to him and said, I can stop them if you use my plan, but you have to print it into paper and get everybody using it. And he said, what is it? I said, surveillance cameras. Have everybody carry a camera. Whether it's got film in it or not, it doesn't matter. Just have them carry a camera. And no man will be seen with a black kid on the street. He's afraid you're going to take his picture and you'll catch him if that kid ends up dead. And he said, we don't want to stop him, we want to catch him. And from the time I said that to the time that they caught him, eight children died. And I still feel bad about that. I left Atlanta when Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis and Joey Bishop and Peter Lawford and Gene Martin and everybody went down there to give a free show for the parents of the slain children. Oh, by the way, all that reporting that you got was not exactly truthful. They said, there are 17 boys that got killed. Some of those were girls. And the first 9 of them were all different MOs. Some were strangled, some were stabbed, some were, and they weren't all killed in the same manner. It wasn't until the newspaper picked up on it that the serial killer started with the certain fashion. See, now that's strange, isn't it? But I had made the statement to the reporter. You are making it so fascinating and so wealthy for these people who are lost children. Are you sure you're not having people send their kids out the street to die? Well, I could have hit him over the head with a brick, but he kept talking to me. How dare you come down to Atlanta and talk like that about us? 2 weeks later, the head of the FBI made the same statement and they pulled him back to Washington because nobody wants to hear the truth. The truth is too much for some people. When I went back to St. Louis, I think it was Mike McGuire that wrote up about my trip in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. And I think it was Jerry Berger who put it in his column in the Globe Democrat. I believe that's the way it was. That's when I got back. And they talked about me using surveillance cameras. A prominent citizen of St. Louis, and I won't use his name, I'll just call him Donald, came to me and he said, Lee, he said, there's a town in Florida that's using surveillance cameras out on the street. They've taken your idea. I said, well, good. I hope everybody does. And from the town in Florida, then London took it up, and after London took it, today there's 1 million surveillance cameras working in the United States 24/7. And they're going to say, oh, he's nuts. He's claiming a surveillance camera. Well, go check the newspapers. It's the first stories, 2 stories, that you'll find in any newspapers about surveillance cameras doing the work. When I was in the middle of trying to get film put in Atlanta for nothing by Eastman Kodak. I called the president of Eastman Kodak. I talked to man, here goes my mind again. I thought it was Connors or something like that. He was the CEO of Eastman Kodak in New York. He said, my God, that's a good idea. We'll have a board meeting. I'll call you back. And he called me back. And he said, it's a wonderful idea, but we can't use it. I said, why not? He said, Eastman Kodak would get accused of cashing in on an adverse situation and trying to get publicity out of it. And 8 more kids died. If Al Gore can invent the internet, I can invent the surveillance camera. And you can go to the St. Louis newspapers long about the time when the child murders were going on. And you'll see that. In fact, that reporter I was talking to used a couple of my things. I said, that killer could be right-handed. What do you mean? I said, well, I said, you found so many bodies in a ditch and all their heads were facing the same way. I said, a guy gets a kid out of the car, his head goes here, he feet goes here, he rolls it into the ditch. If he's left-handed, his head goes here and his feet goes here. I said, they found some in the woods with their arms above their head. And they wrote in the newspaper, oh, that's a cult. Now somebody's killing them with a cult. I said, that's no cult. I said, but it's a man. Well, how do you know it's a man? I said, because a woman cradles a child and a man will throw a child over his shoulder. And as he carried him into the woods and he threw him out, the arms went like this. You got a kid? Yeah, go home and throw it on the bed tonight. See where their arms go. So, anyway, if Al Gore can invent the internet, I can invent the surveillance camera. And a long time inventing the surveillance camera. I did that many, many years ago and didn't make any money, didn't want any money. Think about the pregnancy. Think about a healthy child. Don't think boy. Don't think girl. Now, that's not to say that it's going to be 100% effective. I mean, I know people that got 2 kids and they wanted a girl and a kid come out a boy. A very good friend of mine. She wanted a girl, she wanted a girl, she wanted a girl. Her kid come out a girl mentally. Another guy I met here, he said, oh, your theory don't work, Lee, because I got 3 sons and we wanted a boy in the end. Well, somewhere along the line, they must have said, we want a girl, we want a girl, we want a girl, and the mother confessed to the kid. You know, if you come out a boy, you know, it's okay because you'll have 2 brothers and that'll make our family fine. The fetus hears that. The fetus hears that. Talk to it. Read to it. Teach it. Get it ahead in school. I got a lady here, friend. She's got a grandson. And when he was 8 years old, that grandson taught me something. He taught me a phrase that I will use for the rest of my life. If you're only 5 minutes early for work, you're already too late. If you get pregnant, start at the beginning. A healthy child. You know, at the end of all of these, we're going to have a little chatter. We'll go through some of the things. I've got a number of things that I would like to talk to you about. I just hope that you would all get on. What is that called? Sign up on a thing and get these. If you subscribe to my channel, you'll be able to get what's coming up. We have one that's coming up that God is a generic word. Not everyone believes in God the same way. If you look up the word generic in the dictionary, and you think, this person thinks one way, this person thinks another way, this person thinks another way, why not? I wrote to 103 senators in the United States Senate and said, why don't we make God a generic word? Then when we put in God we trust on our money, and every time we use it, people can't say, oh, I'm offended. I'm offended. What do you got to be offended? All the atheists is afraid of God. That's why he don't want to see the crucifix. He don't want to see anything that has to do with God because he's afraid. People are afraid of things. The atheist is afraid of God. But make God a generic word. Make Christmas time a generic, all the artifacts and everything. generic items. Atheist sees them, and what do they think? They think the dictionary thing. Oh, that means nothing. It has no name. Anyway, we'll be going into some of this stuff later on. Oh, by the way, when I wrote to the senators, I got 4 answers out of 103. And this was long years before John McCain was running for president. He answered me. Joe Lieberman answered me. A senator from Texas, and I forget his name, answered me. And I was living in Nevada. Harry Reid answers me. But Harry Reid sent me a stack of pamphlets. Not even a cover letter saying, here, this is for your letter. He just sent me a stack of pamphlets that I could read. That's not what I was after. Sometimes I think some of these senators that we got are stupid. Lieberman and I knew what I was answering. They just didn't think they could do it. Anyway, we'll be coming up with different things later on. And as you already know, I can't sing, but I love to write songs. Love to. I'll be singing a few. I got a song that I used to do in Vegas, and I'll tell you the name of it, and it's not a dirty song, but it'll take you where your mind wants to go, but it'll straighten you out in the end. Sammy Davis wrote a song years ago, Open the Door, Richard. And I wrote a song, Don't Close the Door on Me, Dickie. I'll be doing that one of these days. But before I'll do it, I'll tell you, and you can either watch it or not watch it. It's not a dirty song. Anyway, I'd like to leave you now. I hope we had a few minutes here together. I hope you get what I say about the dykes in Iran, no homosexuals in Iran. I doubt if there's any homosexuals in any of the Muslim countries because they all think the same and they all suppress women the same. If I didn't do any research on it, but I was thinking the other day, there might be some homosexuals in Germany because when them Germans came home, them ladies had to think, I want a girl, I want a girl, I want a girl. But I don't see how they're swamped in as many in other countries as there are here. Alfred Kinsey's book on homosexuality was written way back when. Said that 15% of the population was homosexual. I happen to disagree with Alfred Kinsey. I think it was way less than that when he wrote that book. Because what he's called homosexual was a sexual deviant. He was throwing in all the farm boys that had fun with their lambs and sheep, which sent the sky high. Now, there's an expert that I disagree with there. And I'm sure if he was alive today, he would disagree with me. But if you make the mistake and you say, well, if you get pregnant, you say, I want a boy or I want a girl, you're not agreeing with me. And you'll come out on the short end. Not you, but your child will as it grows older. I thank you for listening, and I hope we get together soon. Don't forget, tune in or subscribe to my channel, and you'll be getting a few more of these on a weekly basis or every few days or whenever my health will allow me to sit here for a little while. God bless America, and thank you very much.